Hey guys, welcome back, and today we're going to be talking about colons, which are now only for lists. Make sure to stick around to the end where we go through some practice problems. So many of you may believe that colons are used only for lists. Well, I'm happy to break it to you, but you're wrong. Most lists do not get colons, and most colons are not followed by lists. The real rule is that the part before the colon must be a complete sentence, and the part after needs to explain, define, or expand on the first part before the colon. The part that comes after can be a sentence, can be a list, a phrase, or even just a word. The colon, an easy way to think about it, is a period that says, here's what I mean. Now let's take a look at some examples. She had one weakness, chocolate. The part before the colon is a complete sentence. She had one weakness. The second part that comes after the colon answers what weakness does she have? Chocolate. The second example is the most well-known. It's a list. The expedition requires 3 essentials: water, rope, and a reliable compass. Once again, the first half is a complete sentence. The second half answers what are the 3 essentials. Then, at the last example, the architect faced an unexpected challenge. The building's foundation had shifted 2 inches during construction. The first half, once again, is a complete sentence, and the second half answers what challenge. Now, let's take a look back at all of these examples. When you look closely, you can see that the colon helps answer the implied question from the part before. And when we're trying to describe something extra, usually we're trying to expand on a question we have. Hence, when you're trying to wonder what comes after the colon, you just need to think about, what am I trying to answer? So this works in all 3 cases. First half, first example, she had one weakness. What was the weakness? Chocolate. List, what were the 3? Water, rope, and reliable compass. Example 3, what were the 3 challenges? The building shifted 2 inches. And in all 3 cases, you either had a word, a list, a full sentence, or an incomplete sentence. Now, I've told you about when to use a colon, but when not to use a colon. The colon is wrong if the part before is not a complete sentence. And this is the trap the SAT loves to do. Let's look at an example. The museum displays artwork by famous painters such as Monet, Picasso, and Kahlo. Now, this sounds right when you're speaking it, but is wrong when you actually write it out, since the colon that comes after such as makes the first half incomplete. If you wanted to make the sentence correct, you need to just drop the colon. Now, the second example, her favorite hobbies include what? You don't know. The sentence doesn't finish. The colon is wrong in this case. The first half is not a complete sentence, it's a dependent clause. Now, an easy way to fix this is to drop the colon. Her favorite hobbies include reading, hiking, and photography. Or you can fix your first half of the sentence. She has 3 favorite hobbies: reading, hiking, and photography. These 3 items answer the question from the first part. What are her 3 favorite hobbies? Now, here's a quick bonus rule. The single dash, the one ChatGPT loves to throw around, functions exactly the same as a colon. You need a complete sentence before, and you can have an extra clause or an explanation after. The cheetah can reach speeds of 70 miles per hour, making it the fastest land animal by a wide margin. Before the single dash, you have a complete sentence. After it, you have a phrase that expands on the speed, expands on what the 70 miles per hour mean. Now, if both of these choices function exactly the same, that means if they both pop up with the same exact context, the same exact phrase, the same exact words, then on the SAT, that means they both can't be right, which means they both are probably wrong. It's the same as the period and semicolon rule. Now, let's go through a quick summary of what colons do. The real rule about colons is that you need a complete sentence before. Always. If the part before can't end with a period, the colon is wrong. The second part that comes after the colon, however, is flexible. It can be a sentence, a list, a phrase, even a word. The part after needs to do one important thing. It needs to answer the implied question from the part before. It needs to expand, it needs to describe. The most important part where the SAT likes to trip you up is on the fake rule, which now you shouldn't get it wrong. Words like such as and including can also introduce the list without a colon, so you can use many other cases without needing a colon. Then you have the single dash, which functions exactly the same way as a colon. If both appear in the answer choices with the exact same wording, then you probably know they're both wrong. Now, let's take a look at the problem. The ancient Egyptians developed a sophisticated system of writing known as hieroglyphics. The system served many blank, recording religious texts, documenting royal decrees, and preserving historical accounts of military campaigns. So, what is the most important rule with a colon? You need a complete sentence. So let's go look around first in the question to make sure that it is a complete sentence. The system served many purposes. Now the subject here is the system and the verb is served or serve, which means we have a complete sentence. That means we already know answer choices B and C are wrong, since including and such as make this phrase a dependent clause or an incomplete sentence. So you know they're already wrong. Now let's take a look at the second half. Recording religious texts, documenting royal decrees, and preserving historical accounts of military campaigns. This seems to expand on what the purposes were for the system of hieroglyphics, which means answer choice A is more likely to be correct since a semicolon functions more like a period versus a colon explicitly tries to expand or answer that implied question. Now let's check. Hey, we're right. The system did serve many purposes. We got the complete sentence, and the list answered what purpose it was. B, once again, is wrong, since the including makes this part incorrect. Same with such as. D, however, is wrong, since record the second half first is not a complete sentence, nor does it connect as strongly as the colon on these two parts. And make sure to watch out for these traps such as and including, since they can prevent the first part from being a complete sentence. Quick summary, B is wrong and C is wrong since they both create incomplete sentences. D is wrong since it inherently is acting as the list, which means it isn't a complete sentence or independent clause, which makes A the correct choice. Question 2. Dr. Amara Patel's 5-year study on first-generation college students yielded one clear blank, who received structured mentorship during their first semester were twice as likely to graduate within 4 years. So let's replace conclusion since the punctuation only comes after the word. Dr. Amara Patel's 5-year study on first-generation college students yielded one clear conclusion. This is a complete sentence. Now let's take a look at the second half. Students who received structured mentorship during their first semester were twice as likely to graduate within 4 years. This is also a complete sentence, which means A is incorrect. This leaves us between B, C, and D. And now we can use the semicolon rule. You have both the period and the semicolon, and if both function exactly the same, that means they both can't be right. So that leaves us with only option C. We can also do this without process of elimination, since the second half expands on what this conclusion was. What was Dr. Amara's conclusion? Her conclusion was that those who received structured mentorship were twice as likely to graduate within the 4 years. Comma splice, you can't connect two independent clauses with only a comma. Same wording as D, they're both incorrect, which makes C the correct answer. Yay, we got it correct. A recent study on teenage sleep patterns revealed troubling adolescents experience a natural shift toward later sleep, yet the majority of high schools still start classes before 8 a.m. The punctuation comes after problem, so I'm going to substitute this in for the first half. A recent study on teenage sleep patterns revealed a troubling problem. This is a complete sentence. The subject is study, the verb is reveal. That means the first half is a complete sentence. Now let's take a look at the second half. Most adolescents experience a natural shift toward later sleep, yet the majority of high schools still start classes before 8 a.m. This too is also a complete sentence, which means that B is wrong. You're going to get a comma splice. You're going to be joining two complete sentences with only a comma. Then same thing as last time. You're going to be running through the semicolon period problem. C and D are incorrect for this reason, which means A is the only correct answer. Yippee! Now let's take a look at the tip. Right now we're having 3 rules being tested, with the semicolon period helping us eliminate 2 answer choices right there, and then the comma splice, which means right there from process of elimination, we know A is correct. We also know A is correct since the first half is a complete sentence, it hits that rule, and the second half answers the implied question of what that problem was. The problem is that a majority of high schools still start classes before 8 a.m. This time the colon explains on what that first half is, which means the colon is doing its job. A quick look at the summary. You have an independent clause first half and an independent clause second half, which means B is already wrong since the comma is too weak. C and D have the exact same function, which means A is the only option that is correct left. Also, 1 through process of elimination, also because it expands and explains on what the problem. Once again, you need a complete sentence before the colon. If not, you can't use it. Once again, the colon, the part that comes after the colon, is completely flexible. It can be a sentence, a list, a phrase, or even one word. You just need to expand or answer the question from the part before. The fake rule is trying to use colons solely for lists. There are many other ways to do it without lists, and all lists don't require colons. And lastly, single dash functions practically the same way as the colon. They have the same function. They both appear in the answer choices with the same wording, same thing as semicolon period. They're probably both wrong. Make sure to stay tuned for the next video, and once again, thank you for watching, subscribe, and keep grinding.